Musa Qala had nearly been overrun.
Oh, wow.
When I got to this compound, there was big black scorch marks where they'd been hit with RPGs and bullets. We only had 21 guys, so you need everyone on the ground. They put in a concerted effort to try and basically swamp us and take us all out. I had a bit of an unusual arrival because I was on Senior Brecon, which is the course you do for your platoon sergeant's qualifications.
Right.
Platoon sergeant back course.
Fucking crap, wasn't it?
Right, your men, your responsibility. Now fucking deal with them.
And I finished on a Friday, and I found out that day that I was going to Afghanistan on the Monday. So I had a weekend to sort my kit out, which isn't a lot of time. Most of the platoon had already deployed over there. I went on my own, as in I was on an aircraft with the soldiers, but there was no other. And I was told when I got over there there'll be someone there to meet you at Camp Bastion. I got there and there was nobody to meet me.
Oh, really?
I'd asked people and they didn't know, so I made my way to the 3 Para Ops tent, their sort of HQ tent. And when I got there, there was a whole flurry of stuff going on because things had just kicked off in Sangin.
Right.
I think it was the first contact in Sangin.
My command. Go on, just fire.
Yeah.
And so they weren't interested in looking after someone that didn't know where they were meant to be going, because I know where the Pathfinders were. But anyway, luckily I found someone that I knew that was working in 3 Para HQ, Stuart Russell, who was my boss in the Red Devils.
Yeah.
So he said, right, we're really busy in a minute. He goes, get yourself in that tent over there. There's a space there to get your head down. I'll see you in the morning and we'll sort you out. So in the morning, I went back in there. Things had settled a little bit. And I got myself booked onto a helicopter. I think it was a Chinook, if I remember right. And that flew me out to where the Pathfinders FOB was, which was FOB Price.
Okay.
And there was actually a Danish camp.
Right.
But there was a small amount of British troops there. So I got there and there was only like 3 guys from the unit there because the rest of the guys were actually in Musa Qala.
Oh, right.
They'd just gone out and they'd just gone to Musa Qala.
Right.
They'd only been there for like a day or something. We didn't have the whole platoon over there at the time. There was about 2/3 of us.
Okay.
Some of the guys had been left back in the UK on courses.
How many people are we talking there?
It was 20 odd.
Okay.
I think about 20, 21 guys. So I was flown out the next day to Musa Qala.
Right.
And it was an absolute shock because when I jumped off the back of the Chinook, there was a couple of like Toyotas, as technicals as they're known, with like 50 cows on the back and stuff, and dushkas, and a bunch of bearded, scruffy Afghan guys with AKs. And I thought, have I just walked into an ambush here?
Yeah.
And they were like 10 metres away. There was like 20 of these guys all hanging off vehicles with these big scruffy beards covered in crap and all this, you know, dirty and mucky. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I turned and the OC Pathfinder was there with these guys.
Oh, really?
But he looked like a Taliban because he had this massive big bushy beard and he was scruffy and gungy as well. But he was carrying, you know, an SA-80 as opposed to an AK.
Yeah.
And I was like, God for that, because I thought I just walked into... I thought I was just about to get hung up. So I jumped on the back of one of these vehicles and there was a couple of Wimics there as well, Land Rovers. And we drove into the town centre and as we was driving past, there was civilians, you know, just local people in the side streets and stuff. And they just looked at us with absolute hatred, absolute hate in their eyes. And you could just feel that animosity, you know. The other guys that were in these pickup trucks were Afghan police. And they looked exactly the same as the Taliban.
The ANP, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then were you guys supposed to mentor them or?
We were there reinforcing them.
Reinforcing.
Musa Qala had nearly been overrun by the Taliban. When I got to this compound, this mud-walled compound, there was RPG holes in the walls, there was big black scorch marks where they'd been hit with RPGs and bullets and stuff. And yeah, the AMP had nearly been kicked out, but they just about hung on, and PF were the only unit left in the brigade left to actually do anything.
Reinforce it,
because all the other companies were fixed in other locations, defending other towns. But the day one in Musa Qala. I'd literally been there an hour, and we were put on stand 2. Stand 2 means everyone is on, defensive positions. And we was told that this American convoy was going to be passing by about a kilometre or so away in a wadi that was parallel to where we were. Mm-hmm. So we was put on standby just in case something was going to happen, and it did. They got attacked. We was too far away to be able to help them in any way. Plus, we couldn't have kind of all just left the compound because we were there to defend the compound. But anyway, we were put on standby to respond to anything. And literally, there was me and another guy probably stood this close to each other, and a round went straight past the heads in between us. That's how close. Wow. A single shot, so I'm thinking probably a sniper. Jesus. Because it wasn't a burst like an AK would normally be, a burst or at least rapid shots. And a round went straight between our heads, and it was so close I felt the shockwave of the round. So it must have been really close to my head, and I was like, we both dropped below the level of this wall. Yeah. And we looked at each other and just burst out laughing. We just looked at each other and just started laughing, which is the sort of thing that normally happens when you have a near-death experience, as long as everything's all right. But that was my kind of introduction to Musa Qala, nearly being killed on hour 1.
How do you guys read a compound for defensibility? How do you cover angles and set it up?
So Musa Qala was quite a difficult place to defend because it was a compound in and amongst the town, and a lot of the areas weren't open around us. Right. It was basically built up areas, right, covered approaches to the compound. Right. Oh, I see. So the enemy could get right up on top of us, and we wouldn't know they were coming because they were moving through buildings and around buildings and stuff. So that's why you put patrols out to try and disrupt any of their operations, but you can't be out 24 hours a day, especially if you've only got 21 guys. So the commanders that were there when we first turned up, they've obviously made their appreciation, and they've decided where they're going to put defensive points, sentry positions, machine guns, things like that to cover approaches. But Pathfinders aren't designed as a defensive infantry company. No. So we didn't have the same sort of kit as a company would have. But the fact is, the WMICs, you've got 50 cal and a GPMG on most vehicles, or 2 GPMGs. So that gives you a lot of, firepower. So we was able to relocate a lot of those weapons on the rooftops of the buildings, which gave us a lot of firepower. But then we didn't have any other. All we had for mortars was the 51mm, 51mm mortars, which I think we had 3 of those. Okay. So we didn't have any 81 mortars. But the fact is, I think we only had 21 guys, around about 21 guys. So, without saying anything too bad about the AMP, they weren't working with British soldiers. Right. You couldn't really rely on them. They would go asleep on stag and stuff like this. So, it was quite a precarious situation that we had a very few numbers, far less than what we should have really had. But again, you've just got to deal with it. You've got to make the best of what you've got.
Living in one pair of combats for 7 weeks?
Absolutely.
Or how does it work?
So it's 45, 50 degrees, it's red hot. You're living in pretty rough conditions. The toilets consisted of half a cut-off oil drum. You're peeing and crapping not far from where you're sleeping. You've got no real washing facilities. There was a tap thing that you could have a semi-shower under once in a while, but not all the time. Obviously, you've got very, very bare minimum kit with you. And we all ended up with diarrhea and stuff like that. It's one of those things that you can't really avoid when you're living in those conditions. So just that itself, just the living in that tough environment is hard, let alone being attacked every day, Yeah. Wow. It was a tough few weeks.
And then in terms of fast air or fire support, was that on call, or was it touch and go?
So we brought in loads of airstrike, multinational as well. So not just British, but American, but also French as well. I can't remember any others, but we definitely had French, American and British. Strafing runs by A-10s, right. And that was amazing to see. And it was just an A-10, for me, was my favourite aircraft growing up. It's the plane designed around a gun. I mean, you can't get a cooler aircraft than that. And to see this thing coming in and live firing for real. Taking out targets was just something else.
That's incredible.
And the sound of those rounds hitting the ground was just something else, and really, really close to our compound, within a couple hundred metres. Seeing and hearing these rounds coming in was just something else. Wow. Amazing. Yeah, and we had a low flyover with a B-1 bomber once, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. It came in so low, it blocked out the sun. Wow. And you didn't hear it coming because obviously it's coming in low and fast, and we knew what direction it was coming. Obviously we call it in, we tell it where to fly and stuff, so we knew where it was coming from. And I looked up and I saw this plane. It just looked like something off a sci-fi film, just like blocked out the sun, and it appeared in my mind to just stop there for like a semi-second, and then it was gone. And it was so loud, it was like blowing your eardrums out loud. It was amazing. I mean, like I say, the American support we had was absolutely great.
Fantastic.
So the idea of patrolling is to not deny the enemy freedom of movement. So we would send out patrols, you know, once or twice a day, and then we'd do a nighttime patrol as well.
That sounds pretty scary. So how many people would be going on these?
It's just working in your normal patrols of 6.
Okay.
So you have a patrol of 6, but there'd be multiple patrols at the same time, as in you'd be like maybe 3 or 4 patrols of 6, and then you'd rotate into different areas. Very similar to Northern Ireland, actually, how we was conducting it. So you wouldn't all just walk down the road in one big column.
No.
You'd have one 6 here, another 6 here. One would go firm whilst another one would move, and you'd have communication between each other, telling each other where you're going and that sort of thing. And there'd be points where you'd stop and you'd just observe and wait.
Yeah.
Kind of like a snap ambush in a way, but not an actual snap ambush, but kind of if you saw something, you're ready to take them on, whereas other patrols would be moving to just see what's going on. So yeah, as soon as we got there, we were putting patrols out, daytime and nighttime. And initially it was a little bit like going back to the Northern Ireland thing, because we were also trying to engage with the locals, hearts and minds, that sort of thing. But then it got to the stage where all the locals left because the Taliban were coming in. They'd obviously got the word, and they buggered off. And
when you see civvies leaving, that is a flag to you then?
Yeah, it's a combat indicator, as they call it. So we knew it was going to kick off from that point. Yeah.
Right.
And at that stage, there wasn't any hearts and minds going on. It was just standby sort of thing.
Yeah.
Still patrols going out, but yeah, if you saw anyone, they're probably going to be enemy.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I can imagine that sort of changes the tone a bit when actually it's just you against them. Then we get to the 24th of July, and there is a major attack, this going by Patrick Bishop's book, on the Musa Qala district centre. Roughly 300 fighters hit every side of the base. Is that an attack that you can record? Yeah, what happened there? Yeah.
And there was a massive attack. It was daytime as well, which is unusual, because if we was to do something like that, we'd probably do it at night. And one of the most amazing things that I saw whilst I was there is there was one area that was a little bit of an open area they were approaching from. They were trying to attack us.
Coming through!
And we put in a shed load of firepower onto it with 50 cals and GPMGs.
Compound 30.
All right, move smoke grenade! It's gone!
And if you've ever watched Full Metal Jacket, where they get contacted in that industrial region and they're shooting up this building, it looked like that. Because there was a big wall behind them, and all you saw was these strike marks from 50 cals and GMPs, like, and the tracer going down range. It was just amazing.
And at that point, you're behind cover.
Most of us were just on top of buildings behind small walls and stuff. Yeah.
And did that go on for like hours, or like?
It was probably about an hour or something like that.
Did air get involved?
I can't remember exactly, but I think we brought some in towards the last stage. But by that stage, it was over. We just fought our own battle. But there was nothing on standby because we didn't know it was coming. They put in a concerted effort to try and basically swamp us and take us all out. But yeah, they didn't get anywhere near to achieving what they wanted to. They got their arse handed to them. We kicked their asses.